Shem, a beautiful daf. You're gonna like this one, guys. You're gonna love this. This is the daf yomi for the first day of Shulis. Now, I said you're gonna love this. I actually haven't looked at it since last cycle, but I'm just assuming. All right, so kosher b'torin pasal b'bnei Yona, kosher b'bnei Yona pasal b'torin. So we're talking about birds. That when do you have to bring birds as an offering? That we know that you have to bring birds. Sometimes who brings a bird as an offering? Either what? What'd you say? Or you'll add this woman who gives birth has to bring two birds as an or a carbon olav. There are three examples of an olav. Well, a woman who gives birth is there are four mechusar kippurim, and a woman is somebody who's mechusar kippurim. Who is the one who's the zav mitzori yoledet, and so she has to bring a bird. And zav mitzori yoledet. If they can't afford to bring the animal offering, they bring two birds offerings, and then there's the carbon olav, which is the shvuas tumas mikdash v'kadashav shvuas bitoy shvuas shav, and then there's also, in addition to that, the somebody can make a voluntary offering of a bird. But anyway, there's two types of birds that are brought. One of them is only kosher when it's older, when it's mature, and one of them is only kosher when they're younger. So that's why the Mishnah says, "HaKosher b'turim," whatever is kosher, and the only ones that can be brought as a carbon, there are only two carbonos that can be brought as a carbon, as a bird. And that is the Tor and the Bnei Yona. The Bnei Yona is typically translated as a pigeon, and Torin is typically translated as like a turtle dove or something, or a dove, whatever it means. They're really like different types of pigeons.
Wait, how can an animal become not kosher?
No, it's kosher, but it's not kosher as a carbon. The Tor is only kosher when it's older, and the Bnei Yona is only kosher when it's younger. And also both of them are disqualified once they begin to grow their feathers as yellow or golden around their neck. That's disqualified by both of them. The Gemara is going to say on Amabez that the Torah are specifically kosher only when they're older, and the pigeons are only kosher when they're younger. What's the reason? So here is a beautiful discussion about this between Rambam and Ramban. So the Rambam says the reason is because the Rambam writes because the reason why the pigeon is not kosher when it's older is because it's a very hostile bird, and so therefore we don't want to bring it. The Ramban has a problem with that. He quotes, he says, and he challenges this, and so the Ramban gives his own answer. This is a very often cited answer, so everybody should remember this because you're going to get to this parsha. And you should remember this answer. Well, actually, we just did the parasha, so parasha Tazria. So basically, next year when you get to it. So the Ramban says like this. The Ramban says the Torah wants the Torah says only the older birds are kosher because the older Torim, because when they get older, they're monogamous. These birds stick only with their mate and they don't go to another bird, and so therefore that's holy. And in fact, once its spouse dies, it doesn't even remarry; it just sits there crying for it. So Ramban says it's a very holy bird, and also that's the same thing for the Jewish people, that we don't cleave to any other god; we just cleave to Hashem. Devekus ba Hashem. That word devekus comes from our parasha, from Ruth, from the holiday. It says Ruth Davka Bo, Ruth cleaved to Naomi. But what about the Yona? Why is the Yona kosher only while it's young? This pigeon only kosher while it's young. So here the Ramban says because it is very zealous while it's young, and so therefore, it gets very feisty when it gets older. So therefore, Hashem said it's kosher only when it's younger, before it gets too like feisty and zealous. And the reason is because when they're young, they're very attached to their mothers, and their mothers are very attached to them. Sometimes some birds, when the animal becomes like tainted from a human touch, the mothers will get rid of it, but not the pigeon. So the Ramban finds deep teachings, deep meanings in why the Torah is kosher only when it's older, and why the Yonah is kosher only while it's younger. This is okay. Torah Rabbanan, Torah and Gedolim Kasherim, Ketanim Pesulim. That's what the Brisa says, that the dove is kosher while it's older, and while it's a baby, it's disqualified. And the dove is kosher, and the pigeon is kosher while it's young, and going to be disqualified while it's older. Nimtza kosher b'Torah impossible b'nei Yonah, kosher b'nei Yonah possible b'Torah. So whatever is kosher by the Torah is disqualified b'nei Yonah, and vice versa. Torah Rabbanan, Torah gedolim v'lo ketanim. So the Brisa tells us that Torah means only adult birds and not baby birds. Because you might have said sheyachol v'alodinu. You might have said a kavachomer ma b'nei Yonah shlo huchsheru b'gedolim, just like the b'nei Yonah, the pigeon, which is not kosher when it's a big bird. Huchsheru b'ketanim. If it's a baby bird, it's kosher. Torah shehuchsheru b'gedolim eino din shehuchsheru b'ketanim. The adult bird, the dove, which is kosher while it's adult, for sure should be kosher while it's a baby. Talmud are torim, which means gedolim v'lo ketanim. That means adult birds and not a baby birds. And so too we say the opposite. B'nei Yonah, the baby bird, is the pigeon is kosher while it's ketanim v'lo gedolim, because we could have said logically the opposite. Sheyach v'alodinu ma torim shel huchsheru b'ketanim huchsheru b'gedolim b'nei Yonah shel huchsheru b'ketanim din shel huchsheru b'gedolim. Talmud are b'nei Yonah. So that's why the verse says b'nei Yonah, which means ketanim v'lo gedolim. So again, the Torah is kosher only while it's an adult bird, which is like basically like 1 year old. A bird is an adult that is a year old. And the B'nai Yonah is only kosher while it's a baby bird. So the Gemara says, "My Talmud, how do you learn these out from the Psukim? How do you learn out that Torah is kosher while it's an adult, and B'nai Yonah kosher when it's a baby bird?" So the Gemara says, "Amarava lo ishtamekra," because the pasuk doesn't need to say anything. The lichtov min b'nei atorim o min ayonah. So, meaning to say, the Torah should have written the opposite way. The Torah could have written min b'nei atorim o min ayonah. The Torah could have clearly written it the reverse. It mentions it several times. The Torah says specifically by the b'nei Yonah, and by the Torah it calls it Torah. It never says b'nei torim or Yonah. So this teaches us that specifically that they're only kosher when they're in a certain age slot. So the Gemara says, "Ema b'nei Yonah dekasav v'rachmana ketanim in gedolim lo." So the Gemara says, but maybe it means the b'nei Yonah. Maybe all the verse means is that the pigeons are kosher only when they're babies, but the yeah. I see you make Boaz. If you were here Shavuos night, we would eat like kings. You'd be making us eggs at 3 a.m, Boaz. So maybe all it means is that the B'nai Yonah are kosher only when they're minors, but not when they're adults. But the Torim, Ibai Gdom, I see, Ibai Ketanim, I see. Maybe it just means that the B'nai Yonah specifically are only kosher as babies, but the Torim, but the doves can be brought as baby birds or adult birds. So Gemara says, no, Dumya the B'nai Yonah. No, we're not going to say that. We're going to say it's like the B'nai Yonah. Ma B'nai Yonah, Ketanim in Gedolim. Lo, Aptorim Gedolim in Ketanim. So basically, the Gemara is telling us that from the fact that it refers to birds as B'nai Yonah and the other birds as Torah, we see one is kosher only when it's a baby and the other one's kosher only when it's adult. So that's the idea. Now, what does it mean when it says in the Mishnah that Techila Satziyuv, at the beginning of when both of them are golden, then they are kosher? Then they're both disqualified. By the way, Neville, maybe you could look up what exactly is the Torah bird, the Torah, Tuf Vav. What exactly is the Torah bird? The B'nai Yonah is a baby pigeon, but I don't think that these are the same pigeons as our pigeons. You see a lot of pigeons flying around the Kotel. That's a pigeon. I don't know that it's exactly the same pigeon as our pigeon. So it's probably referring to the ones that were around the Temple Mount now. They were probably also around the Temple Mount back then. Yeah, but what is a turtle dove? And what is a turtle dove as opposed to a regular dove? Does it look like a
It's not even like white at all.
Yeah, it's no.
It kind of looks like a pigeon.
So what's
Like a turtle. You've never seen it.
Bigger.
Yeah, but
Bigger.
what's really the difference between these two birds, the turtle dove and the Tor and the Yonah? What's the real difference between them? So okay, we'll go back to the Brisa now. The Brisa says Tanu Rabbanan. I might think Yachol you Kol Torim, the Chol B'nei Yonah Kasherim. I might think every Tor from the time where it's no longer a baby is kosher. The Kol B'nei Yonah and every baby pigeon, as long as they don't become an adult, is kosher. Kasherim. Talmud Omar, the verse tells us, Minatorim. You should bring from the turtle doves, the low koatorim, but not all the turtle doves. Min b'nei Yonah, from the b'nei Yonah, the low kol b'nei Yonah, not all the b'nei Yonah. So this excludes the moment when they begin to bring out the yellow feathers around their necks, the golden feathers around their necks. That disqualifies by both of them. So meaning to say that when they start to become this yellow or golden feather, yeah. What do you got for us?
It says that for the wild bird and dove, B'nai Yonah, which is a young dove, is domesticated, so they can have a bunch of young ones, which makes it affordable as like a.
But you're saying that the exact same bird?
No,
There's no
Tor is a
scientific
turtle
difference.
dove.
No sign. What does that mean?
They're both in the same family.
They just look a little different.
The regional differences. The turtle dove has more color in it. That's why it's called purple. It's like a tortoiseshell look to it.
And the B'nai Yonah is less color. What?
There's a European turtle dove.
All right. Anyway, so they're very similar birds. But what's the relationship between them and the New York City pigeon?
City pigeon is called a feeder pigeon.
Yeah. They're just
Pigeons, government grown.
that would be smart. That would be smart. I'm surprised Israel hasn't done that. Get pigeons flying in.
30 cents per government grown.
What?
Be on everything.
Or you don't even need to make a government drone. You just put a drone attached to it. What?
The sound of the turtle dove is like.
Oh, okay.
And also where the word turtle came from.
Oh.
So that's how they get the turtle.
And also that's why it's called in Hebrew a tor. So the dove is called a tor because it makes the sound of tor. That's what Jeff is teaching us now. Okay, so now, I'm sorry. So we say that both of them are disqualified at the beginning of when it becomes gold, when the feathers began to become gold. So me'emasaya turim sherim, when are the Torim kosher? Mishayativu, meaning to say from the moment when their wings of their body are gold, completely gold, not just beginning to be gold, but when it takes over their body. And me'emasai b'nei Yonah psulin, when are the b'nei Yonah disqualified? Mishayativu, when they begin to yellow. So when they begin to yellow, both of them are disqualified. When they're fully yellow, the Tor is going to be kosher. Yes, Yaakov. And also the next line in the Brisa is Tani Yaakov Karcha. Yaakov, Yaakov Karcha. Karcha means bald one. Yaakov, the bald one. But anyway, go on, yes. No, the yellow is what grows on them after a few months. I don't know what color the turtle doves come out. I don't know. You can ask Navon. He's our researcher on this topic.
Maybe turtle dove. Is that what I'm looking at?
Well, you can just ask them what color they are when they come out. I'm going to guess they're. Oh, well, we're going to get to that. That on the day they come out, then they look disgusting, and you can't bring them that day as a korban. That there is a source that says that. So they come out as gray. Tani Yaakov Karcha. Me'emasai b'nei Yonah. By the way, we say Yaakov Karcha. There was Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, and he was the son of Rabbi Yeshua, the son of the bald one. And Rashi, in one of the Masechtos, tells us, I think it might even be Nedarim, it tells us that who was his father? Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva is called Baldy. Yeah. I can't see that. Can you bring that in? Oh, you see, and its feathers are all yellow there. Oh, beautiful. This is spectacular. What? That's why some say that's not, can't be Rabbi Akiva. Nobody would call him so disrespectfully. Okay, so anyway, we go on. Well, one time, I'll tell you a story about a bird. One time we hear, I think it was Shavuos actually Shavuos, like 4 or 5 years ago. I had my nephew Ben over my home, and we hear in the attic the whole time. We hear this chirping, beep, like it sounds like a bird chirping. So we were convinced that it was a bird in the attic. So we had to go up there and look for the bird. So right after what? No, it wasn't. No, right after Yontif, we went up there, looked for the bird, but it turned out it was my nephew Ben, who has many redeeming qualities, but this goofball left his phone on, and it was It was like this alarm, like sounded like a bird. And so we were hearing it all Yontif. Anyway, Tani Yaakov Karcha Me'emasai B'nei Yonim Ksherim. When are these B'nei Yonah kosher? Because on the day they're born, that's what we just said. On the day they're born, they're too disgusting and they're not kosher for a carbon. That's what Rashi says. Look at Rashi Me'ematai. The Biyom Shenoah, the day they're born, Me'usam Hain. They're gray. They're disgusting that day. So at what point do they become kosher? Misha Ya'almu. Misha Ya'al. When they are Isha Ya'alu. What is that? It's an unusual word. The Gemara doesn't know. What does that mean? Hutani Labu Amara. By the way, has anybody here ever eaten a dove or a pigeon? Hutani Labu. I mean, it proves from here that it's kosher because you're allowed to eat the chat basaof. Hutani Labu Amara. So we explain what this means. Yeah, Rabbi Yaakov Karcha says it comes from the pasuk of Job. The Afrochav Ya'al Udam. Mean to say from the time that the blood is found on their flesh. Aim what? What? They're gonna. What does that mean? Yeah, well, when they have blood coming around their body, not right away. I guess the blood starts to flow. Amos. Great, don't forget to bench, especially if you had a bagel. Amos, when is this the case? I have a great Yantiv, good Yantiv. When is this the case? I'm Rabbi Michishamit God for me name. At the moment, the Asidama, you asked about when does it mean when its blood is coming up? When if you remove one of its wings and it will cut and the blood will come out from it. But so I guess not right away. It has to circulate first. Sometimes you can rip off the wings, won't have blood right away, I guess. I don't know. I mean, we'd have to look it up on AI. How long does it take for the blood if you pull out a baby's bird's wings? How long does it take for blood to come out? I don't want to experiment. So if somebody says, I have to bring an Ola, and I'm going to bring it from either the Torah or the Bnei Yonah, and he brings a bird that's the beginning to have the feathers turn yellow, but he brings both birds. Mao, what's the law? Do we say he fulfilled his vow or not? And Rabbi Zera explains the position. Do we say that since the beginning of the yellow is disqualified because it's a sfeika, because at this time we're turned yellow, we're not sure if they're an adult or have a great yantif. Never. Thanks for your help with looking up. Because we say at that time we're not sure if it's an adult or a minor, and so therefore, out of a doubt, we're going to say that it's disqualified to bring them as a carbon. It's because the Torah maybe it's too young, and the Bnei Yonah maybe it's too old. And so therefore, you have not fulfilled your obligation. Vinafik, and so therefore, but here when he said to the Kohen, you could bring them whenever you want. Vinafik, and he could bring them, and he'll fulfill his doubt. He'll fulfill his mitzvah either way, because it's either going to be young or old. And so if he brought this bird at that age, so he for sure, what's the reason why the beginning of the yellow is disqualified? Is it because we're not sure what it is? But in this case, you for sure fulfill your obligation. Odilma, or maybe biryavi, or maybe when it's a different creature. Maybe it's a middle-aged bird at that point. And so therefore it's not a young bird or an adult bird. And so lo nafik, he has not fulfilled his obligation. Basically, that's the question. What are we talking about when you bring a bird in the middle with the golden feathers? Now let's quote our Mishnah. It says, except, so it says, we're in the Brisa, that at the beginning of the yellowing, it's disqualified. Now, if you say it's its own creature, it's good. It's a kral mute sveka. The pasuk doesn't tell us a suffix. So the fact that the pasuk is being learned to teach us that at that point it's disqualified, that proves that it's its own birya, and that's why it's disqualified. So the Gemara says, what are you talking about? What about the pasuk coming to teach us the miyute nirba, the nevad? Maybe the pasuk is telling us that when it begins to go yellow on top of Chav Gimel and Aleph, it's not a birya on its own, but rather it's disqualified because it's a suffix. And the pasuk is not teaching us that. The pasuk is teaching us that if this bird was sexually assaulted by a man, or if it was worshipped for an idolatry, that they're disqualified for a korban, like an animal. So therefore, the reason why the Bryce is telling us is just in a smachta. So that's not the so it's not like we said earlier. So the pasuk is teaching on something else. The Gemara says, because you might have thought if he didn't say that, he said, because it says that you're not allowed to have that if there is a mum on them, you cannot bring it. And the word hashchasa means sexual sin and idolatrous sin. All right, anyway, this is the second day, Yontif. We'll stop here, Baruch Hashem, and everybody should have a great Yontif, and Baruch Hashem.